Hi, it's Phil here from Spokes Education. I'm going to do another video in my Freelance to Agency series, something I've not talked about really, and that is marketing. The reason I haven't talked about marketing yet is because I don't know anything about it. I don't think I can really add any value to you and helping you kind of market your services or your business. It's not something that is within my wheelhouse, and it's not something we've really focused on here at Spokes Education either. So I've spoken before that our business has been built largely organically through repeat business. We're very good at retaining business through referred business. So again, lots of people we work with, recommend them to their friends and colleagues, which is great. And then thirdly, through competitive tenders, which again, I've talked about before, we have a really good track record of that. And because of those things, we've not really had to do kind of any outbound marketing, so to speak, which is great because again, it's not something that I'm particularly interested or good at. But what I want to do today is we have done something recently, and I thought it'd be worth at least sharing my experience. So if you're with a similar, position to me, and you're worrying about marketing and thinking, it's really, really important to think about SEO and your website and all those things, I just want to kind of talk you through what we've done or what we haven't done, I suppose, and kind of what that means. And it will mean different things to different people in different industries, but I'm looking at it from a digital service-based industry. So yeah, I just want to kind of talk about that, and then secondly talk about an outbound marketing experience we have had recently where we exhibited at an event, so I'll talk through that as well. So first and foremost, to say that, like I said, we've kind of actively shied away from outbound marketing. I understand the concept behind SEO and social media and websites and blogging and all those kind of things. And you might think, well, I'm doing a social video now, and isn't this marketing? It's, well, technically yes, maybe it is, but actually the reason we're doing it is not for a marketing purpose. We're not expecting to gain new business through this series of videos or the videos we are doing. We're doing that as part of our social promise that when our kind of our business plan is largely based around that kind of social element, and kind of giving back and sharing with people, whether that's kind of experiences or, so we're going to be getting a bit more into some of our processes and sharing that with the digital learning community. And again, as other things come up over time, we'll continue to do that, as well as our kind of community and volunteer work with schools and charities. So we're doing this, and now byproduct of that may be some kind of level of marketing. It gives us stuff to put on our social media channels, gives us stuff to put on our website, etc. And therefore we may get more visibility and may get some more traction through that. It's not the main driver, but again, it can drive, any kind of content can potentially drive business. But again, depending on the kind of business you're in, so again, with a kind of a small digital agency like ours, in any given year, we may have, probably, I think we've probably got in the region of 25, 30 clients, probably something like that, and maybe kind of a maximum of kind of 50 projects over the course of a year. So actually, we can invest a lot of time into, maybe getting one extra bit of work, but actually the amount of effort and output we have to do to kind of gain that traction is disproportionate, where actually it's significantly easier for us to put our energies into working with existing clients or putting together a tender bid. And again, because we've got a good record on those things, that's where our energy goes. So it doesn't necessarily go into that kind of outbound. We don't, we'll never in a million years do things like cold calling or following up or sending kind of mail shots and stuff like that. Not saying it's a bad thing, but that's just not our way. One, because it's the ethos we have is more around I don't want to kind of push anything on people. It's, again, we don't do that, and I'll talk about that again a little bit more. And second is we don't really have the expertise to do it as well. So actually, if we to put together a mail shot, we could do that, but actually, we don't really have the expertise to kind of go, okay, this is going to be really impactful and this will lead to X, Y, and Z. I'm quite cynical about it. I think it would be, again, a lot of work and a lot of output from us for probably minimal rewards. I might be wrong, but that's my personal opinion, my personal experience of it all. So if you're kind of coming into things and thinking, oh, how do I market myself? You can go down that route of saying, okay, I want to be top of the Google charts and all that kind of stuff. That there is value in that, but think about how well can you do that? What is the amount of work you need to do to put into that? I don't have the answer for that. I know it's a lot, and I know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of kind of planning and thinking to kind of to get all that ranking and get your website hitting those top pages. Or you could put your energy elsewhere, and like I said, think about connecting with people and think about building up your social network through the likes of LinkedIn, etc. And for me, our kickstart came from existing relationships that I had with people I'd worked with previously, and again I've talked about that before in a previous video, so I won't go into it now. And it's kind of a building on that. So for me, the marketing piece, we have a website, of course. It's there for for reference and visibility, so if people look us up, they'll see it. Even our social media stuff, we have a light presence. We don't push lots of stuff. We actually take an approach of we're going to post a couple of times a week, so we can put out what we want to put out without kind of stressing about finding content and creating content too much. Like I said, the things like these videos help because we can obviously put these out, and it's not to increase our social presence, but again, it's a byproduct of us. This helps us with that kind of social presence a little bit. Again, how much that actually helps our business from a marketing perspective, I don't know. We're not into that kind of marketing side. So the other thing we're not doing, which again you should be doing, but we're not, is kind of monitoring and tracking and all that kind of stuff. But again, so much work involved that I'm not too worried about it. We don't do these things for that purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't film these videos in a room where there's kids coming out of school outside and Molly the dog is licking herself in a corner. We'd put a lot more kind of concern and thought into like that kind of our into that professionalism of the kind of content we put out there. But these are supposed to be kind of lived experience type videos where hopefully that they can be useful to people. So yeah, I'm not going to do a massive thing on marketing because I don't think I've gone into that. Like I said, if you want to get into digital marketing, there's loads of resources out there. But I just wanted to let you know that even if you're not confident with it, even if you're not, you don't really understand it, it's not super essential. Well, we've proven it's not essential because we haven't done any of it. We've done little bits and pieces, but I would say the bare minimum, and we've done okay, but through other channels. So don't worry too much about that. Like I said earlier on, the one thing we have done recently, which is a little bit unusual for us, we did an exhibition at the Learning Tech show, which for those who are not in the industry is probably the largest show for our industry in sort of digital learning. It's a big kind of exhibition, lots of exhibitors, and lots of conferences and speakers and things like that going on. So it's quite popular. People, perhaps not so much this year, but previously people would come from all over the world to visit. I did actually meet a few international friends that we've kind of worked with in the past that I've never had the opportunity to meet. So that was great to actually speak to people, and people had travelled from overseas even this year, and it's perhaps a bit quieter than the last few years where I've been a visitor. But we decided to exhibit this year as a dipping our toe into the water just to kind of see how it goes. About 3 years ago, October 2019, I think it must have been, we had a small stand at the World of Learning in Birmingham, which again is another kind of known show in the digital learning industry. Smaller than Learning Tech, but a similar kind of crowd and similar kind of focus, more focus probably on L&D rather than digital tech. But we did that, and like I said, we literally did a last minute kind of stand. It was kind of almost not a panic buy, but it was kind of we had an opportunity and we got like a mail shot through. So mail shot does work apparently for the right industry, but we got a mail shot through saying there's still spaces left. I took a chance and said can you do as a bargain? And there happened to be a spare stand, so we got a really cheap deal on it. it's about 2 weeks before we went and got the banners made up and things. We spent all in all about £2,000 on that show. So it was quite minimal output. That was at the time where I was the only employee. Mark had just started working with me. I don't think he was an employee at that point, but he'd been doing, he'd done the branding and the website, he'd done all the banners and things like that. So we had, it was a really small operation at that point, but it was also quite a small output. And the way I kind of said it was, it's a good way again of testing to see if a softer approach to outbound marketing will work. And again, that softer approach is, having a presence somewhere else, as having a presence at a place where potential buyers may go. And my experience of that show, The World of Learning, a few years ago, was a little bit different to Learn Tech. So a few years ago, I didn't really know, not really done like a trade show before. I've kind of, been around them, but not really kind of thought much about it. And I didn't know what to expect for World of Learning because it was one I hadn't even visited before. Like I said, it was a bit more of a, shot in the dark type of thing. But what happened is it was a 2-day event. The first day we were kind of there and I was a bit kind of keen and like, oh yeah, people walking past and I was saying hello and, chatting with people, etc. But actually what I found on that first day, we didn't actually get much traction. And what we found was, people were kind of not stopping and they were kind of walking by and kind of smiling politely and walking on. And it was a bit disheartening. And actually I felt like, this may have not been a good idea. And the second day, it so happened I had loads of work to do. So I was like, right, okay, I'm just going to, it wasn't mega busy, so I'm going to kind of hide in the back and do some work. And what I actually found by not being so overt and kind of like approaching people was actually people took a bit more time to read, what we were about, pick up a leaflet, etc., and actually read. And then at that point, they were much more likely to engage. So actually found that out quite quickly. Probably to be fair, towards the end of the first day, I kind of realised that. And on that second day, we had so much more engagement. We actually got we had a few really good conversations. Ultimately, what happened is after those 2 days, we had probably 3 reasonable opportunities. But ultimately, one of those opportunities converted into business. And that converted into a fairly long-term relationship with a client who we still do bits and pieces for now, but they've actually, one of the things we like to do is help people to bring things in-house, and actually that's what they did ultimately. And they gave us, over the course of the following 2 years or so, around about £50,000 worth of business. So that £2,000 output, 25 times the reward from just one client. So for me, that was, it's a risk, of course it's a risk. You're spending time and you're putting energy into things and you're, having to spend money. But actually, if you've got that money to spend, if it's a risk you take, and I've said lots of times before in my previous videos that, you do have to take some calculated risks sometimes. And again, for me, a £2,000 risk was one I could afford to take. If nothing came and I lost £2,000, it's not going to cripple me. It's going to be like, oh, that's annoying, but we move on and we can carry on, and nothing really has been majorly impacted. So on the back of that, obviously I was like, okay, well now I'm interested in potentially doing that again, because now I know, okay, it's possible. We were very small at the time. Like I said, it was just me and Mark was there with me, but not again as an employee. So I was like, okay, now I know this is possible. So I started to look at the other trade shows. So there's probably 3 main ones that we're looking at, but the bigger one, like I said, the Learning Tech was the one I was looking at. That year it probably came a bit too soon for us because it was January. I think they sell out quite quickly, and again it was quite a lot of money, and I wasn't quite prepared for to do it that year. And then of course then COVID hit, and we've had the kind of delays and all these things have been cancelled. So we never really got another opportunity to do it until this year. And this year I looked at it, and again it's one of those, it's quite a bit more expensive than the World of Learning. It was, to get a similar size stand, it would have cost more than double than what we put out, which again, it's something we could afford, but at the same time it's like, okay, well, do we do it? My main concern with the Learning Tech over the World of Learning was that it's a much bigger show, and we're only going to be able to afford a small stand. Are we going to get massively lost in this, this huge kind of show? Again, having been myself as a visitor, I know how easy it is just to walk past stands and kind of not take a second look and kind of take that. But at the same time, I also know that what I also did is pinpoint the people I wanted to talk to prior to going to the show, and therefore, then go and seek those people out. So I was like, okay, what we'll do is we'll get like a very small stand. So it's actually not, it's barely a stand. It was more, I think they call it a launch pad, which is essentially like a little platform with a couple of stalls. And you're kind of in a row with other kind of small businesses. In fact, not just small businesses, some big businesses decide to have launch pads as well. But I thought it's worth the risk. It cost us, again, I think with the launch pad, all in all, with kind of expenses and staying over and all that kind of stuff, around about £3,000. So again, it's not a massive risk. It's again a relatively small amount given our turnover. And again, it just takes that one client. And what's happened, that's obviously it's a bit too soon to kind of say, okay, we've converted anything, but we had a few good conversations. Again, I took the approach of, I saw someone across the way jumping out people and dragging them and forcing them into conversation. And again, that's not very much not what we did. We kind of kept ourselves down, kept our head down and allow people to approach us. Again, whatever approach works for you and what you're comfortable with. Like I said, I wouldn't be comfortable dragging people and kind of engaging in conversation. It's not who I am, and it's not who I want our business to be perceived to be. So we took that kind of much more, we're here. If anyone wants to come and see us, we're here, and come and feel free to come and talk to us. So we got a fair bit of engagement over the couple of days. It was quiet at times, and then we got quite a lot of engagement. One of my favourite things about the whole show was actually getting to meet some people. So a couple of people who came up to me and said, I've been watching your videos, and I didn't know who they were, and that was lovely. So hello to you guys, and thank you for watching, and thank you also for coming to say hello as well. That was really nice, and it made my day. So those kind of little things. We got to meet some clients we haven't seen face to face before. We got to meet some new people. Like I said, got to meet someone we've been working with who's based in the States, and he was talking over there on this stand as well. So we got to meet some great people that we've worked with, or that we hopefully will work with, and some people that I've connected with on LinkedIn and not had the pleasure of meeting that yet. So all in all, it was a really pleasurable experience. As an introvert, it was a bit overwhelming. It was quite exhausting, but a really positive experience. What hopefully will come out of that as well is maybe one or two bits of business. We've got for me, we've probably got 4 or 5 what I would call good leads from it. And again, all of those were not us being overt, but us just having a presence. So for me, that's hopefully a success. And again, if just one of those converts, then we're doing really well. In fact, one of those actually got in contact before the show, and they actually scoured through the website of the show to see what businesses were there. So actually, that is a kind of an extra thing that I didn't even think about. Actually, you're going to hit people who kind of go, I want to see everyone in one place. I'm going to actually hunt down the businesses before I even go. And then kind of get in contact with them beforehand. So that was good. And then, actually the chap came to the show as well, and we got to chat about things as well. So yeah, I say time will tell whether it's whether that has converted, but I kind of just wanted to share our experience of doing that, because it is a scary thing. Again, it's a risk to put something down, but just think of it as if it's a small outlay and you can afford it. Like I say, if you can always afford to lose it, it's how we talk about kind of gambling. Don't spend money and gamble money you can't afford to lose. But if you can afford to kind of take a little bit of a risk, put yourself out there, get a bit of presence, and it just takes that one client that will come knocking on your door. And I'm hoping I'm going to connect. I've also managed to connect with a couple of other businesses like us. So I met some great people who run similar businesses to ours, and I made a point of going in and saying hello to them. Again, I don't want to, we don't want to have competitors. We want to have colleagues, and we want to have friends. And and I've got a couple of conversations lined up with people who are in similar positions to me, just so we can learn from each other and again share our experiences. I'm really looking forward to those conversations as well. And again, I perhaps wouldn't have had those had I not had the opportunity to go to the show, go to their stand, or they come to our stand and open that kind of conversation and dialogue. So it's there's much more to it than just going to a conference and getting new business. I think there is much more to it, and actually see the bigger picture of actually connecting with people, and like I said, connecting with those clients who you've never met in real life, and actually now just speaking to somebody and just meeting somebody, now I feel we have a better connection, and that will will hopefully strengthen our relationship lead to more work in that way as well. So, you know, it's hard and it's not necessarily tangible and it's not necessarily easy to measure those kind of things. But I think they're always worth thinking about as a, you know, as a benefit of doing these kind of things as well. But anyway, I think I've chatted on enough, and I hope that it's useful to you. And again, any questions, if you want to know anything specific about our experiences, you know, kind of exhibiting, or you know how we have or haven't done marketing, then always happy to talk. Check out our other videos. There's a few now on YouTube. I've lost count, but I think I've done a fair few of these now. We're hoping to do some more on kind of development processes and stuff. I keep saying it, but we will get around to it when we're not so busy. But yeah, thanks as always for listening, and yeah, catch you next time. Thanks a lot.